that King has been shot at the Lorraine. Back 10, he has been shot. Okay, TAC 10 advising King has been shot, 604. TAC 11, you want us to pull down? TAC 11, pull down. Okay, TAC 11. In the area? A signal Q, a signal Q. King has been shot. All TAC units on the call, you are to form a ring around the Lorraine Hotel.
What's happening, my brothers and sisters? This is Percy Brown Jr. coming at you on April 4th, 2017. And I'm coming at you because I want to give a shout out to the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I know that we celebrate his life the month of January, which is his birthday month. But I just want to bring you to today, April 4th, 2017, to get you to reflect, because this was the day 49 years ago that he was assassinated by James Earl Ray. And I think we oftentimes forget or even ask the question today why he was assassinated. But we really need to think about what was going on in 1968, because as we celebrate his life in the 21st century, we oftentimes want to paint this picture that America has always loved Dr. King. But if we go back into the year in which he was assassinated, I think after I talk to you a little bit, you will have a different picture of why he was assassinated. So let's just think about what was going on in '68. For one, the FBI, under the leadership of J. Edgar Hoover, had Dr. King targeted and was actually labeled public enemy #1 to J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. We also had George Wallace, who was once governor of Alabama, running for president of the United States in 1968. And he was a big-time advocate and supporter of Jim Crow and segregation. In actuality, on his campaign trail, he had a campaign slogan that said, "Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever." And let's not even talk about all of the other violence that was going on at the time. You had the Watts riot of 1965. You had Detroit that erupted in 1968. So there was a lot going on in the country racially when Dr. King was assassinated. And let's not also forget that he was in Memphis the day that he was assassinated. And the reason why he was in Memphis is because he was supporting sanitation workers who were making no more than 75 to 80 cents per hour. So if you think about that, King was actually in the midst of a lot of things that was working against him, but he was also transcending his message at the time. In 1968, he had gone beyond just fighting for the civil rights of black people, but embraced a poor people's campaign, which he was launching towards the end of 1967. But as he was doing that, King came to some realizations about where America was, and I think this is why he had to embrace a poor people's campaign to try to capture not only blacks, but also whites and other people of color. In 1967, Dr. King realized and said himself that his dream had now become a nightmare. And he also shared with Harry Belafonte that to be walking black people into integration is like walking black people into a burning house. So King had some things wrong in 1963, but was moving in a way by 1968 where it was time for him to be assassinated. But he also delivered a key speech that I think we need to think about in today's context. And this speech that he delivered in 1968 was titled "The Three Evils of Society." And in that speech, Dr. King talked about those three evils. And those three evils were militarism, racism, and materialism. And if we think about our context today, in which the world that we live in, America spends 54% of its federal budget on military. We've been in the Middle East now for well over 15 years. So if we want to think about militarism in the context of being evil, it is still playing out in a way, probably more so than the Vietnam War. We're just not having that many soldiers killed, but in terms of dollars being spent, It's probably surpassed what we've been spending, what we spent in Vietnam. Racism. If we think about housing, there's still de facto segregation. When we think about educational outcomes, blacks and Latinos are barely graduating more than 50% of its student body. When we think about incarceration, which is 21st century slavery, there are still disproportionate outcomes. Black men make up 6% of the nation's population, but makes up 40% of the prison population. And last but not least, materialism. America practices waste economics. We buy more TVs than we should. We always have to update our cell phones. We are always throwing food away, which could be food that could be feeding and serving the poor. So let's go back, America and the black community, to what was really going on in '68. And if we really want to pick up where King left off, we have to think about a Poor People's Campaign. But in order for that to happen, we have to become awakened. There needs to be a great awakening where blacks, progressive whites, Latinos, women, people who are fighting for other issues of equality need to not only become consciously awake within your respective communities, but we also have to start working to becoming collectively and consciously aligned. So that's where we need to move as a country, and I want to keep you all engaged. I'm investing my own time and money in launching a video and audio blog called Real Talk. I'm going to be talking about the issues, but from a real perspective, from a black man's perspective, but also from a perspective of community and really working to bring people together. So stay tuned to the screen near you. God bless you, and Godspeed to the change we want to see.